to my computer. So I'll just process it and send it over to you.
Okay. And yeah, don't worry about, we can, really edit it as needed. But if you feel like if you get going and you feel like you want to stop and start over, you can also do that as well, since it's only going to be a 10-minute segment. And everybody's cool on kind of the rough theme of the 3 themes that we want to cover.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, then unless you guys need anything else from me, I'm going to leave you guys to record. And
good. Thank you.
See y'all later.
See ya.
Awesome.
Actually.
Don't you wish you could move the windows around so that you could have people in the order? Like, I'd rather you two be at the top and me at the bottom, since you're the featured guest. How does it look on your screen?
It's kind of odd. Yeah, I see you and then myself at the top
You can hide your
and
own.
then Dave.
I could hide my own and just be like the voice of God behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Oh, no, I mean, we would still see you. You just wouldn't see yourself.
Oh, that's true. Well, would everybody else see me in the recording?
I hope so. I think so.
I don't know.
That's a good question.
I don't know. Well, I'm not uncomfortable seeing myself. I'm just
Can you still
uncomfortable
see me?
with the order. I can still see you.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I just hit hide self view.
Oh. I'm hiding self-view too. I love it now.
So
And
I'm recording to the cloud too, just in case you're not visible. Hopefully the cloud.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna give us a backup and make certain video settings. Now, how do I get myself back?
There's a button next to speaker view now that says show self view.
Top.
There. Oh my goodness, you guys are geniuses. What would I do without you two? All right. You guys ready to go?
Yes.
So I'm just going to quickly introduce myself and introduce the topic and you two, and I'll let you guys start in, and we'll just have a conversation about VR and AR and real estate. Hi, my name is Jeff Turner, and I'm entrepreneur in residence with Second Century Ventures. And on this session, we're going to be talking about augmented reality and virtual reality, otherwise known as AR and VR. And I'm here with Dan Weisman and Dave Conroy, both directors of emerging technology at the National Association of Realtors. And it's always an honor to spend some time with these two brains.
Thanks for the invitation, Jeff. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Jeff. I look forward to the conversation. I always think back to when we first started talking about AR, VR a year ago, and now that COVID's hit, it'll be interesting to hear how all of our opinions may have changed a bit.
Or not.
Or not.
Well, so let's start there, Dan. I mean, I remember very, very fondly, actually, we had a very long conversation about VR and AR, and you had some seriously bright hopes about its potential and its future. So I think let's start there. I mean, I don't think the brightness of it has changed.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been, as both of you guys know, because we work closely together, I've been really passionate about this. And I really, like, everything I focus on around emerging technologies around like being more productive and being better at what you do on a day-to-day basis. And prior to joining NAR, I was in the construction tech space, and it was always so challenging to, like, everything was about production, labor production in the field. And so I've kind of brought that with me to NAR, where I'm always thinking about how can people be better at what they do it more efficiently. And the example I always use with like AR and VR is like, wouldn't it be amazing if instead of a realtor driving around to 20 homes and having to look into each house, how could you make that virtual? How can you allow people to get a really good sense of what the house looks like? And I'm not saying that like you're gonna see the house, go through the transaction and buy the house all through virtual reality or using some form of augmented reality, but at least narrows it down to say the top 5 houses you want to see. Because I think all of us have either rented or bought homes or sold homes, and there are those ones you walk into where you immediately know, you're like, God, why did we even come here? And so how do you use virtual reality to at least narrow it down to your top 5 or 10 or whatever it is. And I think that, unfortunately, due to this pandemic, I think it's even more important now because it's a lot harder to go see places.
Yeah.
So I'm still like, I think that it should, the challenge is I don't think anybody does it very well right now. The experience isn't great. You have the Matterports out there and others, and they're just okay. So anyway, that's my thought.
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
I'm glad
go
that
ahead, Dave.
I'm glad that we're paired up on this topic because Dan and I kind of have, we'll agree on something, some of the use cases that definitely make sense. But I think I'm approaching it maybe a little bit more bitter. I feel like since I've been a kid, AR, VR has been something that's been promised to me, like video games with virtual reality that you just
And flying cars.
flying cars. And it just, every year they're like, next year, virtual reality, here it comes. Um, and I now I've been let down too many times. And so I'm a little less bullish on AR VR than Dan is, but I do see some use cases, right? Like obviously new construction, buildings that haven't been built yet, being able to kind of experience what a property could look like. I've seen some consumer applications that have done some interesting things with AR VR that could be interesting in the real estate space, like Wayfair, their consumer app. You're able to see what your couch would look like in your living room.
Yeah.
But for me, it's all about the form factor, right? Until I see like an awesome headset that is lightweight and indistinguishable for like a normal pair of glasses, I'm just never going to be fully bought in. I'm one of the people who puts on the headsets, and I don't know, maybe it's a trust issue. I immediately feel uncomfortable when I'm disconnected from my surroundings. Now we know companies out there are working on these. We've seen Google Glass before. Facebook is working on their own hardware. That's been confirmed. Apple Glass might come out next year. I trust that when the form factor and the compute gets small enough and comfortable enough to wear, that you're going to be able to do some amazing things with it. But I just think this is so far out. What are your
Well,
thoughts?
and so I feel similarly about the form factor of the equipment required when we're talking about augmented reality. I'm not all the way to your position on virtual reality, especially as Dan described it in his use case. Because while he may say that none of this is really, wowing in terms of it, there's such a gap between where the industry sits today and what the consumer would like to be experiencing that we really don't need to wait for the next big breakthrough in virtual reality for agents to begin taking advantage of some of the efficiencies that he's talking about. And, the timing of this is actually kind of good because, I want to, full disclosure, one of the companies that I spend an awful lot of time working with is ImmoViewer, which was part of NAR's 2017 Reach class. And we moved ImmoViewer into a more construction-oriented space in the restoration industry, the insurance restoration industry, specifically because of a problem that exists inside of real estate. And we describe it as feed indoors. Feed indoors is the problem with capturing virtual reality of existing residential homes. And it's the barrier between real adoption in the real estate industry. So it doesn't matter that 87% or whatever the last NAR survey numbers were of consumers would like to see that kind of a tour before they go visit a home. Even last month, when I went and searched and did the study, I looked at 20 different areas across the country. We're still on average, less than 5% of homes have virtual reality attached to them. So I think, Dan, you're right. I think agents are missing out on an opportunity to gain some efficiency by using Zoom, like in this setting, and share their screen and go through these virtual tours and add the value on top of that virtual tour that doesn't exist online today.
I also think though, we throw the word virtual reality and virtual tour around, and I find them to be two very different things. When you go to realtor.com or wherever and it says, hey, you have a virtual tour, to me, you're clicking your way through these rooms and kind of these images. That's not virtual reality to me. Like virtual reality is like, how am I interacting with the space? How am I truly
moving through it?
Yeah. And I haven't seen that really yet. And that's the part where I think would be that would be a real amazing kind of value add for realtor, would be able to put that headset on, although Dave's uncomfortable with that, would put that headset on and be able to use, you know, I think, Jeff, we've talked about it. I've got the Oculus headset. I think you said
Yep.
you have that as well. And like actually use the joysticks and walk through the house and make it feel more like an experience, as opposed to staring at a computer screen and clicking some little circles that walk you through a house. That's not virtual reality to me. That's a virtual tour, kind of. I don't know.
But don't you see it as that necessary transitional step to get people to where you want to see them go? Because the same problem is going to exist. It doesn't matter whether the receiving device is fully immersive and it allows me to use this joystick to walk through so that I can lose myself in it, or whether or not I'm staring at a computer screen. The same problem exists. You've got to build up whatever muscles are required to go and actually create that kind of content. And for me, it's not the technology ultimately that is going to be the barrier for this. It is going to be that behavioral element of actually capturing this content. On the augmented reality side, I think there are different kinds of challenges, but I don't think they're as driven by individual human behavior inside of the real estate industry. Those can be sort of taken over by larger companies with lots of data and access to things that they can push out into the environment. That's not the same with residential real estate, at least not the way I see it.
Yeah, I think Dan has a really good point there, that often like virtual tours does get conflated with virtual reality.
Yeah.
And then that might be why some people's opinions of it are a bit more negative on it, perhaps even my own, because you just don't get that same.
I think that's true.
As when you're in person, because and as Jeff was saying with AR, like I've been really impressed with what Apple has done with AR Kit. They've done all of the heavy lifting on what it might take for a developer who's trying to get into real estate to create like a nice functioning home staging app, or perhaps like a landscape staging app.
Yeah.
And now as that continues to improve, as they're going to need to support their new product lines, like the glasses that hopefully come out in a year or two, it is going to be interesting to see which of the major aggregators or portals, or maybe some newcomers to the market who take advantage of this tech and do it in a different way. Because for sure with staging, and for sure with, again, like being able to change the colors on walls to help picture yourself in a home can definitely help the sales process, right? If you can picture yourself in a home, it could help change your opinion on whether or not you buy it. But again, it just feels like this thing that is always being promised, and it just seems to somehow always underdeliver still. But I'm waiting for it.
I think it's hard too. Like I'm sitting in my house now that we've done tons of renovations on, and quite frankly, like my wife and I did not agree on the purchase of this home, but she reminded her of her grandparents' home, and so here we are 6 years later. But like even being in the construction industry and now the real estate industry, I had a really hard time like envisioning what this house could look like. Big ugly green bushes out front, bathrooms from the 50s. Just, it was almost, it felt like the only thing they had new was the kitchen, which was awesome because kitchen remodels suck. But we ended up renovating all this stuff. And like, had I had some way to use like augmented reality or virtual reality to essentially remove all the stuff in here and then put what I thought would look good in there, I would have been sold 6 years ago. Instead, it's taken 6 years for me to get close to being happy.
That's promising to hear, because my wife and I are looking at homes possibly for next year, and I'm looking at all the photos online, and I'm like, I can't see it working, but who knows? Maybe AR VR will help change.
Listen, I spend more time thinking about this than anybody else I know. Within easy reach of me right now, I have 6 360-degree cameras, 6 different brands of 360-degree cameras, and companies that are a part of the investment portfolio for an AR Reach, like ImmoViewer and Box Brownie, are doing things in that virtual staging space, ImmoViewer is doing what I call reverse staging, where they build the floor plan and then they remove all the furniture and just have plain white walls and windows and general carpet so that you can envision a space without all the visual clutter that's there. Those things are cool as heck. Because again, for people who don't have the ability, and that's most of us, to walk into a house and go, yeah, I totally see this. I can see this moving here, and I could just take that wall out there, and.
So Jeff, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Earlier, you brought up some stats about like the penetration of virtual tours in listings. What, in your opinion, what do you think is the barrier there? Is it access to the hardware that you have? Is it?
No, I mean the hardware's cheap. It's the argument, and for realtors who might be listening in on this, they know these arguments. They don't need to produce a virtual tour to sell a house. And so the virtual tour, because it's been around, that the virtual tour concept has been around in real estate. I mean, it's why I entered real estate technology. A different kind of virtual tour was my first company. All you need to sell a home are good photos. And even then, that's not true. More homes sold in Rochester, New York in 2019 with 0 photos than had virtual tours. So market conditions, I think, are part of it, but it really is the time investment. You look at the difference in capture time between a Matterport and, say, somebody using a Ricoh Theta, massive time difference, but even that extra 30 minutes to an hour of going in and doing it, there is a behavioral resistance to doing these things which don't effectively sell one more home.
So Jeff, sorry, real quick, Jeff, I remember we were in New York at a conference having this same conversation, and you told me that stat about Rochester, and I was just blown away because I just don't get it. I don't get how consumers don't want the ability to essentially try to view as much of the home as they can before actually going and buying it. So it's very interesting to me.
The desire is there, and these are NAR stats. There's 87% of consumers, when they're asked, would you like to see a true virtual tour of a home before you go visit it? And they say yes, they would. And I think maybe, Dan, you made a really good point at the beginning. This shouldn't be about the marketing of the home. If I'm a realtor, I'd want to be thinking about this in terms of safety. Why would I want my first meeting at the home to be a live meeting where I've never met this person? If I basically set it as a policy, I'm going to show you 10 virtual tours of homes, and then we'll go out and see the ones you like. I will have had that first meeting in a more safe environment. And just the amount of time that it would save in going through that process would be huge. And I don't think we talk about the safety aspect enough. NAR has a large push towards safety. I think moving towards even virtual tours, even though they don't meet your high standards from a virtual reality standpoint, I think there needs to be more discussion around what the benefit would be to the realtor community by having a much higher percentage of homes that have these truly, as immersive as they can be right now, virtual tours.
And full circle, like you mentioned earlier, one of you guys did around right now the virtual tours are hopefully a step in more virtual reality. And I agree, it's absolutely a step in the right direction, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And I really think that, from a safety perspective, why would you not want to take advantage of a way to show people homes and get a better view of what it looks like inside before you have to drive around for 2 weeks and see 20 homes? I mean, that's so inefficient for everyone involved in the transaction process. So
to try and recap here, right? So the hardware to create these type of experiences is available and relatively affordable. There is consumer demand for it. Historically, it hasn't really been utilized, but with the ability for it to now be used to show homes more efficiently and safer, given the current environment, will 2020, 2021 be the year of AR/VR in real estate? What do you guys think?
I think so. I think it'll be the year of virtual tours. I don't think it will be the year of AR VR.
I don't think it'll even be the year of virtual tours.
2021. Give me 2021. Come on.
We have to make some predictions here, right?
I think realtors are more likely to gravitate towards technologies that will allow them to have what I'll call a virtual open house kind of scenario where they're walking through and talking about that property, you know, something that they can record and show later and do it rather than going and creating a virtual tour. Even though some initial statistics, and I think Redfin put out some statistics, show that consumers are more attracted to the experience of talking to a realtor while they're being led through a virtual tour because of the ability to look up and down all around and sort of control that movement. It'll be interesting to see what happens with 360 video and live streaming 360 video. I personally love 360 video in that context. A couple of years ago from stage, I challenged some RE/MAX realtors to do it. And one of them, who happened to be sitting at my table, took me up on it and did what I thought was the first ever 360 live tour of a house. And so it's just 360 video, walking through, talking. People are on Facebook chatting with her about it. You know, it created engagement, created some content that could live there in an evergreen way. So I'm not quite as bold on the virtual tour in the residential real estate. I'm bold on more virtual experiences, but not necessarily the virtual tour.
Yeah, I'll go as far as to say that we'll start seeing in some areas, especially metro areas, almost like video first listings, right? I'll go that far, but I don't know. I'm still not strapping on a headset.
Well, okay. So let's have a prediction on the AR front then. Let's make an assumption. Let's assume into existence Apple glasses. Because if Apple does it, it will be instantly popular and it will overwhelm everyone, and we'll all be walking around with glasses that look like mine, only I'm now going to have Terminator-like capabilities.
I'll probably buy 2 pair just because.
What's your prediction now? What do you think is going to happen with them for real estate?
Yeah, so you're trying to frame the predictions in that.
I'm framing predictions with the existence of the right piece of technology.
I think if say we get the first generation of that hardware next year, I think kind of similar to the first generation Apple Watch, where it was almost like a remote viewer for something that's already on your person. Like a lot of the computation was still happening on your phone. I think the first couple of first 1 or 2 generations of that hardware, the experience is still going to be lackluster. While I think there's a ton of opportunity if you have that form factor, I think again it'll be a few years at least, and we're going to have to see some other technologies improve as well. This last talk that we had with the Reach Canada folks on 5G, if we're able to get the low latency, the high speed bandwidth to these devices, and they're light and easy to wear, sure, the possibilities there are endless. And that's something that I would definitely be excited about.
So I guess I see it in 2 different ways. There are the glasses, but then there's also the ability to use AR on your phone or another device, a tablet. I don't know why, but I just haven't so let's start with the glasses piece. I'm in line with Dave, where like there's going to be this first iteration of the glasses, and they're not going to be great, and they're going to be heavily dependent on some other device surrounding you, and I think it'll still feel a little bit clunky, and there won't be that much buy-in. So I think that's at least a few years out. But I do think, I don't know why, maybe I just don't see it, but taking advantage of AR and what we were talking about before, I know you mentioned, Jeff, and I think you showed me at some point, like ImmoViewer is essentially going in and can remove all the clutter from all the rooms. Okay, so who's then taking my clutter that I envision being in my home and putting it back in there so I can see what it looks like when I live there? There are a few products that I know of that do that, but it's all it's relatively generic. Like, oh, I want mid-century modern, I want traditional, I want this, and it puts in some generic furniture and some pictures on the wall, which is cool. But at what point when do we get to the point where I can select all the different pieces of furniture and things I want to put in this room? So I
Do you
think
want to go through and create 3D scans of all of your existing furniture so you always have it with you in your AR arsenal?
exactly. Yes. I want it that personalized.
Amazon should just keep track of it for us.
Exactly. You know, I showed my wife for the first time this morning. I was trying to find a photo I saw yesterday of this leopard and this black panther that had been, this photographer took 6 days waiting to get them mirrored behind each other so that the black panther looked like a shadow. But in the process of searching for it, I got the new Google AR search result where I could put a leopard in my house, which I think is cool as heck, right? And I say this all the time. Technology often looks like play in its initial iterations, and it almost has to be, because you have to have a reason to want to, you know, scan around your room, you know, and it's recording things and measuring things. Like I have no idea what kind of data collection or what kind of privacy issues exist there. But dropping the leopard in my living room at a reasonably accurate size, I mean, that's the beginnings of these things. And the more the consumer sees that stuff happening in their casual browsing of the web, and they're able to use it even on their device, I think it trains certain kinds of behaviors. And I think that's where the greatest hope for me sits, in more and more of those kinds of things being surfaced in your casual interaction with your search experience.
Normalizing it.
Yeah.
I like that idea of the Amazon concept of adding stuff in, and then, gosh, you can just purchase it right there.
Yeah, for most
right?
of those
Be
things,
done
they
with
already
it.
have the 3D models.
I'm saying tie it to the real estate transaction, right? Yeah. So you tie it all together. You walk through, oh, this couch is cool. This is cool. Add it to your cart. Shows up 2 days later, and you've got a house just like you want it.
Make it so. Make it work.
2-hour delivery.
Well, let's wrap this up. I love this topic, obviously, and I know it sometimes sounds like I'm negative about it. I'm actually not really negative about it. I think I'm more realistic about it. I think there's some behavioral challenges we need to overcome on the consumer side and on the realtor side, on the virtual reality space. On the augmented reality space, I think I'm with Dave. I think it's an equipment issue. I think the equipment's the barrier.
Cool. Well, thanks for having us, Jeff. It's
Oh,
always great to chat with you.
Love talking with you guys. Thank you for giving me your time today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.
Awesome. Great topic.
Yeah.
That's fun. Yeah. We normally start